Hello and welcome to Change Management Made Easy, a video series providing best practice advice for getting change management right. This is brought to you by Change Proud, a change management training and resources platform. In this episode, we're going to be helping you understand what change management is. So let's just start by looking at a bit of the background theory here. So on this slide, you'll see the change curve, the Kubler-Ross change curve, a very famous model often referred to when people are talking about change and how human beings tend to respond to change. And as you can see from the curve here, the idea is that we don't tend to always respond that well. There can be a bit of shock and denial at first, potential frustration, potentially not wanting to engage with the change, and basically resisting the change until we start to experiment, change our way of thinking, and then usually hopefully adopt and get on with the way things need to change too. So change management is ultimately about helping people adopt new ways of working in the workplace, and it's based on the premise that human beings don't tend to adopt to change that well, hence the change curve, and therefore we need a discipline that is purely there to enable businesses to help employees adopt to new ways of working with minimal disruption to the business, with maximum value, and with the least amount of impact on the individual themselves. So really that's where the basis of the change management discipline itself came about. So in order to understand change management, we want to have a bit of an understanding of the background methodology that sits behind it. And there are several different methods and frameworks, if you put it into Google, that would come up helping to explain what change management is. But Kotter's 8 steps is one of the best and easiest to understand and the most well known. So thinking back to that change curve we were looking at, as people tend to go on that journey when change is coming their way, the idea of the 8 steps here is ultimately the things that a business needs to do in order to take people on that journey with the least amount of disruption, with the maximum amount of adoption and engagement from them. And there are, again, many different versions of these steps, and depending on the size of the change, the scale of the business, all these different variables will ultimately depend on how these steps are actually carried out. But as you can see, going from the purple, green to the pink here up the slide, it's ultimately about initially creating the climate for change, so creating that sense of urgency, helping people understand why change is necessary, forming some real coalition around it, then beginning to really bring it to life by engaging people, communicating with them, helping them understand what's going to happen, bringing some quick wins, empowering people, and then moving on to really sustaining and adopting, making it stick, ensuring that it's difficult for employees to go back into old ways of working, and they're supported in adopting and fully engaging with any new ways of working that might be being implemented. So looking at another framework here, so this is the Change Proud change management framework, and hopefully this will help because it just simplifies the steps we were just looking at with Kotter. And again, thinking back to that change curve, always think of that in your mind when you're thinking of change management. We're managing people through that curve so that hopefully they can get to adoption and engagement as quickly as possible. So here we break it down into these 4 steps. So very similar to the Kotter 8 steps. So starting with creating the vision, aligning leaders, building a clear plan around what you're going to do, leadership alignment being the absolute critical part up front there. Then really moving on to assessing the impact. So who's this change actually going to impact? What's going to be different for them? Who are the other stakeholders that we need to get on side? And how ready are people to receive and adopt this change? Then moving into actually implementing the change. So once we know how it's going to be impacted, how people are going to be impacted, we can respond accordingly. We know the types of communications and information they need. We know whether they need training and new capability, and we know the way in which to engage them in that to deliver maximum transformation of behaviour. And then finally sustaining performance, so measuring benefits, tracking progress, sustaining the changes for the future so it sticks and we don't go back to old ways of working. So just having these 4 things in your mind, starting with the vision, understanding the impact, transforming behaviour through our change responses such as communicating and training and etc., and then sustaining the change for the long term. Really a useful framework to keep in mind to really understand that all change programs and change management will broadly follow this pattern of activity. If you've enjoyed watching this video, for more easy to use and accessible change management training, resources and templates, please visit ChangeProud. Thank you for watching.